Hello everyone, I wanted to just give you a quick update for the course in social problems. Just remember that you should go to the modules, which you can click on modules and it'll take you to the modules and they'll be listed in order. And you should really do the modules in the order in which they're listed, and the items that are in there you should do in the order in which they're listed. And if you do that, you won't miss anything. So for example, here's the lesson 1 module, and it has an introductory document, and then it has other items in there. Some of them are reading items, some of them are videos, and then there's the discussion. After you finish doing the reading and the videos, then you can do the discussion, and then the quiz. So the best way to do it is to do it in that order. And pretty much we're going to do one lesson every week. Of course, we had to do our welcome and orientation module up front in the first few days of class, and that was part of the first week. So I want to talk a little bit about the discussion. I noticed that in the lesson 1 discussion, it looked like some people were not looking at the instructions very carefully, and that's important. So please read the instructions that are with the discussions, but also read about discussions in the syllabus, because that's going to tell you exactly how to make an A every time in your discussion assignment. And more importantly, it's going to enable you to get the most out of it in terms of learning, because the reason that you're taking this class is to learn. In the end, yep, you're going to have a grade. Yep, you're going to have a degree. Yep, that's going to be your ticket to some other part of your life that you want to have, like maybe a particular vocation that you're preparing for. But the things that you really learn in college that change your life, that change you as a person, you shouldn't be the same person when you finish this course as you were when you started. You should gain something from it that changes you, that makes you better, smarter, wiser, more insightful, whatever the case might be. And so, that learning, that'll be with you forever. So grades are just a means of measuring the learning that happens. And the reason that I allow students to have unlimited attempts at things like quizzes and to participate in discussion for a lengthy period of time until the deadline is because I want you to interact with the lesson information, then take the quiz. And if you don't make 100 the first time, no problem. Go back, look at the lesson again, take notes. Keep those notes in front of you when you make your second attempt on the quiz. And every time you do that, you're going to learn a little bit more. And that learning is real learning. So the best way to learn sometimes is actually by getting things wrong. Of course, I'm perfectly happy if you learned it all the first time and make 100 on your first attempt. But if you don't, you can still make an A on the quiz, because all you have to do is go back, look at the lesson again, and make another attempt. But just keep in mind, you've got about a week for each lesson before the deadline runs out. And you're going to want to complete those. You want to leave some time in between each attempt so that you can go back and learn what you need to learn to do well. The score on your quizzes is going to be the average score. So you should be able to make an A on I want everyone to make an A. And I want you to use the quiz as a learning tool to learn more. And as a result, you get an A. Okay? Now, the discussions. There's a couple of things you need to really understand about the discussions, and it's explained in the directions. So in the discussion is going to be about the lesson, the things that we studied in that particular lesson. So in lesson 1, it's about the sociological perspective, right? And applying the sociological perspective to social problems. So the first thing that comes to my mind when I just see that title is, what do you mean by sociological perspective? What in fact is a social problem? Well, that's coming up in lesson 2, actually defining social problems. But, as you read that lesson content, you're going to learn about it. And so the messages that I want you to post should be related to the lesson content. And while it's perfectly okay to send a message to one of your classmates and say, hey, I really like what you wrote, a compliment, an encouragement, do it. That's great. But you're not going to get any academic points for that. I do want you to do that. Okay? But what will you get your grade points for? You're going to get your grade points when you include something in the discussion that has academic value. So it's great to say, hey, I like what you said about X, Y, or Z. But you need to also, you can, maybe in a separate post or even in that post, include information from the lesson that demonstrates that you have read and understand something about that lesson, that you learned something from that lesson, okay? So you want to include information from the lesson in there. Now, how many times should you post within the week? You should post at least 3 times. So, and remember, this is not a short answer essay. It's not that you're coming in and you're answering a question by looking up the answer in the lesson. Instead, it's supposed to be a discussion. Now, you could ask a question. So, some of the things you might do in your discussion, you might post a comment, something you thought about, something you read in the lesson. You might post an insight that you had about the reading or one of the videos that you were watching. You don't have to agree with everything that you read, right? You could point out an area where you have a difference with maybe something that was said on a video or that you read in the reading assignment, okay? Or maybe it's something that's brand new to you and you want to point out that, that was an interesting thing that you learned or what have you. You could post questions about the lesson content. Maybe there's aspects of it that weren't completely clear to you. If you post questions, other people in the course might need to know the same question. I'll be glad that you posted it. And also others may have some thoughts about that, some insights about that they can share with you to help you get a better understanding of it. You could be one of the people that answer a question that someone else posted, right? Answer or otherwise respond to a question, okay? Or a comment that someone made. Sometimes if somebody makes a comment about the lesson content and they only made a brief comment, you might ask them to elaborate more on it, or you might ask them to give an example, or maybe you would like to. You like what you understand what they said. You agree with their comment, and maybe you can give an example of it. So, you really understand something if you can teach it to somebody else. I used to tell students that when you're studying, one thing to do is go find somebody else that's willing to listen to you, like your grandpa or somebody like that, and say, okay, grandpa, I'm going to explain to you what I'm learning in physics. Today we learned about black holes, okay? And then if you can explain it to grandpa or to somebody else, right, then, that helps you learn it and get it straight in your head. So sometimes in the discussion, you can take on that role of giving an example of something that we've talked about in the lesson as a way to explain it to the class or really just to rehash it for yourself, okay? But basically what I want you to do is not just answer questions as if it's a short answer test. And I don't want you just to say nice things like, hey, how are you? That was great. I like what you said. You can do that. No penalties for doing that. But I want you to engage in back and forth dialogue with others in the class about the content of the lesson. And I want you to make sure that you include something in your discussions that has academic value. In other words, addresses the content of the lesson in one way or another. And you want to do that at least 3 times. You should have a minimum. You can have more than 3 posts, but don't have less than 3 posts if you want full credit. Okay? Now you'll notice in this, that's all explained in the directions for lesson 1 discussion. And there's also a little PDF there that I put as an attachment that says participation assignment description. It's basically like a rubric. I'm going to pull that up here so you can look at it real quick, but you can pull it up, you can look at it, you can print it, whatever, for yourself. But here we have, it's Appendix D in the syllabus. So if you read the whole syllabus, you've already seen this. But basically, this is a discussion participation rubric, which means that it shows you what I'm looking for when I grade them. Here's this first column that says excellent. There's 4 categories and they're worth about 25% each, right? As I'm grading it. But the important thing is in that first column, that's what an A looks like. The second column is not quite as robust as that first column, and that might be what a B looks like. The third column, not quite as robust as the other two, might be kind of what a C looks like, okay? And then beyond that, you don't want to go beyond that to the other column because it says unsatisfactory, okay? And you don't want to make anything less than a C on any of your courses, really, do you? No. So you should be able to score an A every time on the discussions. Just follow these ideas here, right? And it's real simple. Communication of ideas. Organize your comments well with ample and accurate supporting evidence, maybe some examples that furthers just class discussion about academic content from the lesson, right? Responsiveness to the class. You need to respond to others. Have that back and forth discussion. So don't just post things yourself and then say, I'm done. Read what some other people have written and discuss with them about what they've written, right? That should be a component of it. And then, and it should be about the lesson. Then you need at least, you need to check for errors, proofread your work. You might want to type it in a word processor so it'll help you with your spell check and all of that stuff, and then copy and paste it into the discussion when you're doing that. And you don't have to do that, but I mean, that's a smart way to double check your grammar and your spelling. Because you know what? Think about the courses that you're taking, like this one. Why don't you just pretend that you are in your career and that you are a junior executive in a big company, and that when you write stuff in these discussions, it's a memo that you're writing for the president of the company. Now, you wouldn't send a memo to the president with grammatical errors in it, would you? Of course not. And so just start treating these assignments that way. And you know what? When you're out there in your career down the road, it'll just be second nature to do it that way all the time. And because you're practicing for your professional life. Because you see, one of the things that's different about having a college degree from not having one is that most of the careers that people prepare for with a college degree are professional, right? And so and when you send an email to your professors, not just me, but any of your professors or anyone at the college, if it's the registrar, if you send an email, send that as if you're writing to the president. You're a junior executive in a corporation and you're sending a message to the president of the company. Use all the protocol, use complete sentences. Don't use slang. Don't use abbreviations. Address it to the person. Put your contact information in there. I've gotten emails before from students that literally said this: "What up when the letter B, the letter R, test, question mark." Okay? And I understand it. I understand that's fine and dandy. That might be the way that you write to your good buddy in class. But you know what? Practice professional communication. And so do that with your discussion as well. It's worth 25 points. Okay? And then you got to post at least 3 times. So it says here posting more than 4 times. That's excellent level quality, right? In the discussion. Okay. So keep those things in mind as you're working on the course and you are, participating in discussions. Okay. Now for that first discussion, actually for the introduce yourself discussion and the also the lesson 1 discussion, I have extended the deadline to allow you time to go back in there and add to it if you need to, so that your work falls in line with that first column expectations. Okay. And then, so I've extended the deadline to April 7. which is next Sunday. And after that, after April 7, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to grade it again. You may see a grade in there already where I've gone in and made a temporary grade. Let's call it a temporary grade. And after April 7, I'm going to grade it again. And if you have improved on your participation, then your grade's going to go up, okay? So I want to see that for everyone who needs to improve on it. All right, finally, I also did an extended deadline on this syllabus quiz and the lesson 1 quiz. So if you need to take, if you don't already make 100 or you're not happy with your grade and you need to go back and make additional attempts, you know, the final score will be the average score for your quiz attempts. Then you can do it up to that deadline, and then that's the cutoff. Now, don't expect these extensions for future lessons, because you know what? You're doing lesson 2 already by now, and lesson 2 deadlines are going to be the 7th of April as well. So I'm just saying, if you need to go back and tidy up some of the things from lesson 1 to change your grade, improve your grade, now's your chance to do it. But you still have to keep up the pace with the next lesson, because this course moves pretty fast, right? All right. If I can help you, if you need any help from me, just call on me and I'm here for you. Wishing you every success.